Hello and welcome to the Neurodivergent Parenthood Chat. So we are Neurodivergent Parenthood. So my name is Frankie. I'm an educational psychologist and I work with children and families and I also have lots of neurodiversity in my family as well. And so we are on a bit of a mission to help neurodivergent parents have a better experience of parenthood as well. And so so hi Rocio.
Hi Frankie, how are you?
Yeah, I'm
I
good, thank you. How are you? You can introduce yourself.
It's great to be here in our first episode in this channel. And my name is Rocio. I'm a psychologist and also with an ADHD brain. I have worked in the past in different schools in Chile with like neurodivergent teenagers and adults as well. And I'm working with Frankie in this project that comes from my heart. So hope that you guys enjoy this chat, and we can answer your questions and all the stuff that you have in mind in terms of this.
So, Rosie and I have been having a little bit of a chat about how sort of, all these challenges of being neurodivergent parent are quite hidden. So I mean, parent experiences generally are just so incredibly hidden from society and all the challenges that are past them every day. But I think it's particular to like neurodivergent parents is that as a society, we're like really aware, or we're starting to become really aware of the needs of children who find school difficult or maybe feel like they don't fit in. But then suddenly, when we're all adults and going through the biggest challenge of your life, becoming a parent, it's like we just kind of forget all those neurodivergent needs and just imagine those difficulties disappear. So that's what we are really wanting to sort of like highlight about the experience of neurodivergent parents. So I've got some great questions today, and I'd love to hear from Rocio and hear her views. We'll have a bit of a chat. So Rocio, um, I don't know, do you ever feel like people don't get you as a neurodivergent parent?
Yeah, um, of course. It's a really interesting question because I feel people don't get me in general as a neurodivergent person. I think I was just introducing myself just a moment ago and feeling like I would like to just come across myself, and I was aware that I was doing maybe some masking because I feel a little bit nervous and I don't know how I'm coming across. And there's always an element of you being a neurodivergent adult that you are trying to come across as normal and like doing things as the other people, mirroring neurotypical ways of doing things or acting. And I think because of that we become really good at it, that people don't believe that you can be neurodivergent. So because we become
It's
so good
that's
at.
so interesting. Like when you're an adult, and I feel like that's part of this is like almost universal to all people, but obviously I know it's really emphasized for sort of people who are neurodivergent. But like
Yeah,
that feeling of like I'm just performing. Is this really me? I want to be authentic, but then you feel like there's certain expectations. Like it's such a hard balance, and I can get how that sort of gets layered. Like all those challenges. Being neurodivergent is quite challenging. Being an adult in the world is quite challenging sometimes, and then you layer that on top of also being a parent as well, like in a world that's not really designed for you. I mean, it really it's a lot of challenges piled on top of each other sometimes.
yeah, totally. And I was last night watching a video, really interesting video from Jessica McKay from How to ADHD, because I
Oh yeah.
have an ADHD brain myself, and she was talking about we become really good at speaking neurotypical, you know. And so
Mm.
basically I think for me the challenge is like, as a neurodivergent adult, like people don't believe first of all that you are neurodivergent, and then you have extra challenges because you keep them hidden, and then you add the next layer of you are a neurodivergent parent. And
Mm.
that you question like, why do people don't get as you being neurodivergent parent? I think for me personally, and you guys can tell us later in the comments, is like it's really difficult to navigate the school system, all the admin system, all of the many different platforms, parent mail, emails that come from school, all of the different sources of information that school give me that I need to be on top of, and I cannot make sense of that because it's not really simple, and I feel that I'm always behind. So I think one of the things that people don't get in this sense is how difficult it is to navigate your role as a parent, trying to do it okay, but do it well when you actually, the way in which you're, especially nowadays things are so complex, are coming towards you is really complex communications, really a lot of different channels, platforms, and homework. It's in a different platform than the way school communicates with you. So there's a lot of that in that
And this
sense.
that's the really interesting, like that idea of like being neurodivergent affects every single aspect of your life. It's not like it just sort of filters into certain areas in a way that people might think of like, oh, this would be stereotypically difficult for someone who's neurodivergent. It doesn't really work like that. It's like part of everything. I think definitely the idea of all the different things that you have to keep track of and think about, and that I actually think when you're a parent, you just add on just such a huge amount more like life admin, things to keep track of, things to be on top of. And I think that it just doesn't match very well with some of the sets that can be more challenging for neurodivergent people, like some of those executive functions like memory and like yeah, just the idea of like keeping a vision in your mind of where am I at with something and adding in new information, and then also like adding on the idea of just like misunderstandings or just doing things in a roundabout way, doing things in a different way than the system is expecting you to, and that adds such a huge layer of like challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I believe that I was also, I think one idea to keep in mind is like the system assume, or people generally assume, that we all start at the same level.
Yeah.
So we all start with the capacity. So for parents, it's difficult to navigate the school system and the communication. For everyone is the thing is that the assumption from school sometimes is like you start to the same level, so it's going to be a bit challenging, but of course everyone can, right? So but when you're neurodivergent, it's definitely certain things that you cannot relate to and respond to at the time. So it's like, and I know that I'm coming across as neglectful at times. If I don't respond to an email, if I miss the registration for my child attending an event, and it's not because I don't care, it's because it's just really difficult for me to work with this brain that I have that is heavier and feels like an old engine. Turning it on, it takes a lot of effort for me, and then it's very sensitive to everything. So I'm kind of think
You know what you're
takes.
saying there about the amount of guilt that I that I can carry around all the time, especially when it's like I feel like I didn't do something which now has implications for my kid. That's the thing. It's like it's not just that you feel like sometimes like, oh, I'm sure people just think I'm being stupid, but actually layering on top of that, like, and now my kid has missed our school activities. I literally had that this week where we were trying to organize ourselves and we couldn't get ourselves sorted in time. And then suddenly I'm like, oh, great. Now, like, my kid doesn't get the aspect activities that we wanted for them. And it feels like the implications are like for you and how people see you, but also then for your kid as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, I have the constant feeling that my kid is missing out on things sometimes. I missed out, exactly as it happens to you. I missed on the deadline for registering him for like the after school. This year I didn't miss it, which is a massive accomplishment. But I asked people to help me out, acting on this kind of co-regulating myself and leaning on the support, saying, please remind me of this. And so I make sure I didn't miss it because I missed it before. So definitely guilt, as you said, that it's not just the perception that you're falling short as a parent, is the also the guilt that your child is missing out, and you kind of, and you're trying to do your best and it's still not enough. Still not enough, even if you can try
And then
it.
there's one of the challenges as well is like being being a parent is very public. Like almost if you didn't have any parental responsibilities at all, and it was just you living your own sort of like single life, like no responsibilities, then who sees the implications for you messing up? Like people don't really, it's like you wouldn't see it. And now it's really, really public, right? People are coming to you being like, well, your kid came in the wrong shoes yesterday. You're like, oh no, I'm really sorry. Like it's so like other people have noticed it. And then I guess you're also seeing other people performing parenting. Like sometimes talk about performative parenthood because I feel like the way that you parent in front of other people feels different. Like them watching you changes how you parent. And I feel like you're also doing it to other people. So you're watching other people and you kind of have this, to be honest, a big part of it is this perception that everyone else is getting it right and you aren't. And even though I mostly consider myself mostly consider myself neurotypical, although as I say we've said before, I'm a bit quirky. But I think there's kind of like this assumption that surely everyone else is getting it right. And then one of the things that's really difficult is actually when you speak to those people, suddenly you realize that really a lot of people feel like that. But I think it's just the layers of like, if you're that parent that seems to have done it every single time, that starts to feel like I'm getting this reputation or people are making this judgment of me as well. Yeah.
Really. And the expectation, I think for me, with Mika now, it's basically some days, yeah, I drop him to school a bit later, and so basically sometimes it's because of me. My brain is not cooperating. I slept badly the night before. Other times it's because of him. He has his own challenges, and me being a neurodivergent child as well. Therefore, so I think I totally forgot my train of thought.
So, can I bring you back round when you said earlier about that dysregulation? Because so in our
Yeah.
course, which is neurodiversing parenthood, the art of being okay. So Risu and I talk absolutely loads about the experience of kind of getting dysregulated and like even getting dysregulated a little bit and trying to rebalance yourself and how incredibly hard that is. But yeah, Ritu and I just talked about how it's even more challenging when you're then worrying about, okay, and now it has implications for my kid. Like,
Yes.
the experience
Oh,
of it all is so much.
yeah. Thank you so much for helping me to recap and reconnect with it. So thank you, Frankie. Also, so yeah, I was trying to say that when you add that the layer to, you probably have neurodivergent kids because it's highly inheritable.
Yeah.
Being neurodivergent, then you also sometimes the expectation that the system, the school always might have over your kid might be lower. Like, she's always late for school, for instance. That's one of my concerns. Like, oh, she's always taking him to school late, so therefore they expect you to always be like that. When you actually can
Mm,
learn to improve, and it doesn't mean to assume that he's less capable of, or I'm not going to show up, or that I'm not doing something to improve, change, or learn. It's just for me, it's like the concern also is like I don't want people to be expecting less from me because I'm neurodivergent, neither
mm,
from my child, because the struggles are real, but the capacity to learn and grow as a human being is also real. So we always can be growing and expanding and knowing and learning about how works best for us to kind of show up in the way we want to show up to the
yeah.
world, you know?
So one of the sort of taglines that we had like really early on for our course was just like different parents parenting differently. Like I think
Yes.
it's about and so there's also something about the words that we've used for it, like neurodiversing parenthood. We want parenthood to be accessible to people, even if you're any sort of neurodivergent or anything beyond like whatever anyone thinks the cookie cutter normal. And I think just that like one of the next questions I was going to ask you is like what do you kind of wish other people did understand about you? But I think one of the things that jumps out to me is just the idea of like I want people to understand that a neurodivergent parent may be parenting differently, not less. It's
Mm.
not that you're doing a worse job, you're doing it in a different way, working with a massive system that doesn't really suit you. So I think it's just kind of recognizing that like we need to be able to place value on that parenting differently. One's
Yes.
not better than the other, they're genuinely different.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what else like what do you wish the people kind of did understand about you as a neurodivergent parent?
Oh, that's a great question, and I love what you said about like parenting differently as well. Like, um, I yeah, I think one of the things is like we don't start at the same on the same step. Let's say on the ladder of becoming a great parent. If we think of a vision of how we would like to be in life or in this particular area, I think I wish people would realize that not everyone starts on the same step and thinking a bit more of equity instead of just equity based mindsets or like thinking that we start at a different step, we have different needs, therefore what we need to take to get to the same results looks different. And
Mm,
and, and basically you're working with more things on your head. Your brain is a bit heavier at times. At times it's more sensitive. Like this morning, I woke up like I was going to prepare for this session a little bit, so I did a little bit of walk in the woods, and I took a little bit of the medication for ADHD that I haven't taken in ages because of my brain. I slept really good, like 7 or 8 hours, and still felt this brain fog. And I was like, a little
mm,
bit, I'm not been able to show up for this episode as I wanted to. So I did take a little bit of that medication because I need it. My brain sometimes is heavier. Sometimes doesn't respond
mm.
the way I want or the way I expect. And
Mm.
and I
And
think
that's something
people
as well, the idea of what I guess something we're trying to achieve with our course is to be in a place where you're okay. Like that's just in lots of ways, this course is like the preempt to the sort of parent you want to be further down the line, because actually we want you to be okay in the first place. And if you're not okay because you're struggling to regulate and you've got other things and things are just generally harder or more challenging for you, or you're working with different strengths, then you're not coming from that, you're not starting from the same place. And so I guess it's sort of like a leveler, like you need to be okay so that you can then start to do all the other things that are kind of expected of you or that you want to be able to do for your kids as well, I guess.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, I think that's one thing, as you said. So being a little bit more open-minded about, we don't know what is behind people's challenges. So being a little bit less judgmental. I think people sometimes are really easy in this society in which everything is about social media and the image, or a lot is to do with how we're perceived. We can be really
Mm,
good at making judgments of people when we think they're falling short on things. And either you have a diagnosis or a label to say that you're neurodivergent, or you don't have it, and you just feel things are a bit more difficult for you. We're really quick at making judgments. So I wish people could be a little bit more open-minded and less judgmental when we see a parent that is kind of struggling or not doing things as expected. And the kids, I'm particularly concerned those shortcomings as a parent, this forgetfulness that coming across as I'm being neglectful, like I'm not looking after my child. And there's nothing more far away from the reality that I'm trying my best, and I just, because I'm trying to juggle all of these other things about being a good mom for him, that sometimes I do forget about the little registration to showing up time, or sometimes I have sent them with the wrong uniform. Um,
yeah.
so yeah, like
And
that
there's
would
something
help.
there as well about recognizing it's really hard to put your kids first. Like it's like a massive taboo, the idea that you wouldn't have your kids at the all center of every single moment of your life. But like there's a huge amount of that, that just the effort of placing your kid in that position for you, and how like drained you get. You run yourself absolutely beyond the end of your batteries, and then you can't help anybody. So it's almost like, how do you do this? How do we kind of accept that putting your kids first is really hard, and it's not always the right thing to do 100% of the time? Like, if we do that 100% of the time, you have nothing left. And then the next day, you can barely get out of bed. So that doesn't help anybody. So I think there's something about just kind of like getting people to recognize that it's not taboo to be like, no, I actually do need to do something to look after myself because I'm not okay. And I think that and not that that's supposed to be like a massive cry for help, but just like, give me a bit more breathing room. Give me another minute. Like just pass over this mistake as if it didn't happen. And I think just recognizing that, it's just such a taboo, isn't it?
It is, absolutely. And I think there's so many expectations of us adults and people, how about our performance, like this kind of, we need to do it perfect, or do all of this. We've been talking with you, Frankie, about the participation requirements. So what does all these implicit rules that no one tell us in society, but if we don't meet them, we cannot take part, we cannot feel included.
Mm,
Some of them are like, for instance, showing up for certain things on time, considering that for everyone is capable of doing something so simple, right? Seems so simple.
mm,
You never consider that with some people that's a struggle. So if you have time blindness, time for you is different. So therefore, there's a lot of stuff that you're juggling more. So all of these implicit requirements, not everyone can meet them as easy, and therefore,
yeah,
but we're judging people and assessing their performance and their behavior in life as parents, with these standards that we think that are okay, but actually quite hard for some people.
yeah.
Some of us feel left out because no one told us how to meet them, and we don't know what they are either. So it's part of why we're also responding in our course, and I think that's really important, you know.
The amount of effort it can take to show up in the first place. I think that's the challenge, right? You don't know how much effort it's taken. And this can apply to loads of different areas of your life, but like the amount of effort you put in before you've even got your kid into school. And like, even if I definitely find myself getting dysregulated in the morning, and I just can't get over like how much different parent I am at 7:30 on a Wednesday morning versus Saturday morning when I'm all chilled out. Saturday, I'm like, yeah, really playful, fun. What's your kids' ideas? All about children's like living the life they want to live and how we support them. And then on a Wednesday morning, it's like, where's your shoe? Where's your shoe? Like I'm just completely overwhelmed by the like the task. The task is get your kids in, and it's not always that easy. And everyone's trying so hard to get in. And yeah, if we could all just give everyone a little bit more empathy. I mean, that kind of leads me to the last question I had, which was kind of what difference would it make if people understood a bit better about being a neurodivergent parent? Have you got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think what would can you repeat the question, please, to
Like,
see if I
what difference would it make if other people did understand um, neurodivergent parents a little bit better?
yeah, I think I would feel less self-conscious. I would be able to just kind of feel a little bit more relaxed when I more welcome, less self-conscious and more willing to ask for help, which now I'm pretty good at it. Like now I can say, and I've been saying to school, everyone knows that I'm ADHD and I'm neurodivergent. If I forget something, I tell the secretary, sorry, I forget it, because not always saying that I'm ADHD, but they know already. So I kind of say, could you remind me again the date? I think
Yeah,
the invitation of like, if everyone would be a bit more understanding about people and neurodivergent, I definitely would help us feeling more at ease and asking for what we need, acknowledging our needs, showing up in the way we can, and then making the journey up to possibly like hopefully thriving, eventually enjoying the process, and getting to exploring and expanding our potential. I think it's like a more welcoming ground
I think
for
welcoming is so important because I think a lot of so many people, but particularly when I speak to other neurodivergent parents, like this feeling of being on the outside, like everyone else on the inside, and they all get it, and somehow you're on the outside. And we just have to create we need to be more vocal as a society that yeah, again, different parents parent differently. It might look different than other parents, doesn't mean that it's less than, we need to be more trusting that a neurodivergent parent clearly trust that they love their kids, they're acting in their kids' best interest, and they are still a capable and wonderful parent, even if it doesn't look exactly the same as someone else doing it, maybe.
yeah, absolutely. And like in the way, I think it's interesting the question of what do we expect from parents to qualify as good parents, right? Someone
Mm,
that qualifies someone as a good parent, the standards are really unrealistic for many people. So I think being more understanding with people being neurodivergent and neurodivergent parents is like, well, maybe we don't need to have the same standards to qualify someone or to consider them a good parent, as long as it meets the minimum what the child needs to be safe, to be looked after, to be
mm,
healthy, to be in a
mm,
good place, right? Some of the stuff that we can actually be a little bit flexible with certain things, and maybe start having those conversations would be great.
absolutely. But is there anything I've missed that I should have asked you, Rocio?
Great question. Thank you. Let me think. I don't have anything to mind as in another question. I was just thinking of the idea that like when you like being a parent, it's already your kid is very likely when, especially when you're younger, they more likely to go on tantrums and to be dysregulated because their brains are really young and they're not mature yet to manage certain things that are going on in the environment. When your child, so when that happens, you can also bounce back into your own regulation as a neurodivergent parent, as a neurodivergent person, and
Absolutely.
basically it's like a heavier load to carry on. And when you
Mm,
have this neurodivergent too, and you are neurodivergent, it's like an extra layer on top of that. So you have the layer of the adult that is looking after a child is already more prone to be dysregulated because the child gets deregulated, got a tantrum, and then you struggle for him to put the shoes on. Then if you're a neurodivergent parent, then you have an extra layer of managing your own brain when that's going on. If your child is neurodivergent and you are neurodivergent too, that means that you as an adult and as a parent, you
layers
have
and layers and layers.
to carry more of that dysregulation weight and being able to balance that and to help your child and helping yourself. So that was just to invite everyone to think about these things, and it's part of what we are responding in our course. And I think that's to understanding these layers of complexity that we're dealing with as being,
Definitely. Oh, that was a really great chat. Thanks, Rocio.
Yeah,
And so
thank
if
you.
you're, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I hope that you guys enjoy this chat and following us. Follow us and click
Yeah.
the button follow because if you want to keep posted on the next video and add your comments, that we would love to hear about you. So
Oh, definitely. If you are a neurodivergent parent and you feel like the same as we're sort of describing all the challenges we're talking about, then yeah, please do follow us on all the different socials. We're so passionate about this topic, and we have so much more to come because Rasu and I could talk for hours and hours and hours on these topics. So we look forward to seeing you again soon, and thanks for listening.
yes, bye guys. Thank you.